Hey, it's Costa. Welcome to another edition of Behind the Balls here on rock1053.com. You know, when you think of iconic players in the history of Padres baseball in San Diego, I mean, it's obviously the first name that comes to mind is pitcher Mark Grant. Unfortunately, he couldn't be with us today, but I was up here working out at San Diego State, and I know that Tony Gwynn works here too, so I just figured I'd drop in and say what's up. We know you because your son plays baseball in the major leagues.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It is cool. It's a lot cooler than people think, you know. It's yeah, he's wearing, you know, Padres' arch rival uniform.
Okay,
but
talk about that. Now,
job's a job.
Okay, I was going to say, a job is a job,
yeah.
And when you're up in the show, you're up in the show. It doesn't matter the color that you're playing. Is he having a good time? Is it cool with him being in LA? He is.
I think it's a good fit for him because they're a young club. I mean, their best players are young guys,
yeah.
And he's kind of like the experienced guy. You know, he's hanging around the league all those summers, and you know, now being in the big leagues himself, they really trust his advice, and I think he kind of likes being in that environment. So it's been good.
What about the stuff that's going on off the field with that organization?
They don't. You know what? I think. As Matt Kemp told me a couple of weeks ago, he said, you know, as long as things are okay down here, we can't worry about it. You know, your job is to play baseball, and I think that's what they're focusing on. You know, they're trying to play better, but obviously they're having a little trouble putting runs on the board. But that stuff that's happening off the field, they can't really worry about it. They just got to go out and play.
In all seriousness, if you poll people in San Diego and say who's your favorite Padre of all time, 99.9% of them will say Tony Gwynn. Obviously, your record speaks for itself. While you were playing, a member of the Hall of Fame. You were recently back there in Cooperstown. What's that like when you go back, when you realize that, yeah, that's one of your busts inside
yeah.
Cooperstown. It's not a dream. That's actually happening. What does that feel like?
I can't describe it. It's because, you know, when you go into the Hall of Fame, they tell you your life's going to change forever, and you can't really. You know, when they say that, you can't really see it. But it's been 5 years now, and every time that I go back, it's just amazing that I'm part of this group of guys who love the game first and foremost. The game comes first. They love the game. They think about the future of the game, and they want people to look proudly upon the accomplishments of those guys that have gotten into this group, and so. And it humbles you. I mean, you know, I'm sitting in a room having dinner with, you know, Ozzie Smith, Rod Carew, Lou Brock, Orlando Cepeda, Juan Marichal, Wayne Fox, Short Fred. You know, and you almost have to slap yourself every year because our table is the most entertaining table in there. You know, we're the contact hitters, we're the Judys, we're the guys that don't get a whole lot of credit. You know, and we're basically running this dinner, and it's absolute comedy, and I look forward to that every year. And I look forward to being that guy that welcomes the new guys, too, because there's a faction of us who like to give them a hard time and make them feel like rookies.
Well, you have to.
And I guess you do, but I'm kind of the voice of reason. I said, man, it's going to be all right. Don't worry about it. Robbie Alomar was so petrified on Friday, that I said, hey, man, it's your day, it's your weekend, enjoy it, it's going to be fine. And he was fine. He gave a great speech. And got through it, and they yanked him from the table he was sitting at and put him at our table, and we had a great time. So it's really cool.
When they talk about guys like Ted Williams and Stan Musial, and then Tony Gwynn is mentioned in the same breath.
Yeah, I'm a part of the same group.
It would stagger most.
Yeah. It is. It does. I can't even. You know, like this year, Hank Aaron wasn't there because his wife was sick. But in normal years, Hank's there, Willie Mays is there. Sometimes Stan is there, Ernie Banks. You know, some of these guys, my name doesn't belong with those guys. You know, you're just happy to be part of the group. Because believe me, there's a bunch of us who we walk into that room on Sunday after the ceremony's over, and you know, I'm looking around, I'm like, what am I doing in this room? You know, but you know, again, they respect us too. You know, they know that we went about our business the right way. We we're productive players.
Hard work pays off.
That's exactly right, and we're good citizens, and all that stuff comes into play because people think it's just numbers.
Yeah.
People focus in on the numbers, and we were having a conversation on Sunday. All of us are remembered for one thing. Ozzy was like, he said, "Man, I could go out and hit 300, but ain't nobody gonna remember that. They're gonna remember me flipping around out in the infield. They remember back flips and defense. That's what they're gonna remember."
When people come up to you, I mean, what's the one thing they remember you
swinging
for?
A bat. I was, a tactician. You were, a musician. You were
the 5.5.
Yeah, there's certain phrases of my career that people are going to remember me by, and that's one of them. I just kind of threw that out of the blue, the 5.5 hole, and people are like, "A 5.5 hole? What are you talking about?" Well, that's the hole between shortstop and third base.
Yeah.
And I hear announcers saying it all the time. So again, you've left your mark. You've done something well enough so that somebody else feels like, hey, that's part of what he did, and that's what made him successful.
Tony, the cancer scare, and there's a million people walking around out there who we would all say, okay, you deserve cancer before Tony Gwynn deserves cancer.
Nobody does.
But I'm just, I'm saying bad people out there who live to be 90, and then there's people who, like you, who, wait a second, this isn't supposed to happen.
I'm not going to even go that route. I did it myself. I'm the reason why I had cancer. And as ugly as it is, and as bad as it was, I got nobody to blame but myself. So I'm totally okay with that.
Right.
And but I also feel like it's part of my responsibility, being that I have a platform sometimes to say things from, and I generally like to keep to myself and not say something. But this is one time where you got to make good decisions. The bottom line is, I'm not going to sit here and tell you to or not to.
Yeah.
I'm just going to tell you, if you make bad decisions, there's ramifications, and I had to go through that. And it was not the proudest thing that I've ever had to go through. I wasn't. Actually, I was scared to death, when you had to go through it. But you get my wife and family help me, and friends help me get through it. I've gotten through it. I'm on the other side of it now, and I'm doing pretty well. My face still doesn't work like it used to, but.
Tony, whose does that?
Yeah, I was going to say under the circumstances.
I'm on the radio and my mouth doesn't work.
Hey, I'm thinking that maybe that's where I need to be now, on the radio. But hey, all in all, I'm doing really good.
That's really great to hear.
Happy to be here.
And you're about to take off on a little road trip with the Padres.
Yeah.
As you're sitting there with the great Mark Grant on the broadcasts. Do we just have to grin and bear right now with the Padres until they get things up and going?
They're a young team. This is a young team, and I know we're impatient. We want to see winning baseball, and especially coming off a year where we kind of surprised the world and we're right there in the hunt. Yeah. You think, God, they can just improve on that. Offensively, it takes time for guys to kind of figure it out. Pitching has always been a strength of this club. Mm-hmm. This year is no different. I think their starting pitching is really good. I think their bullpen is outstanding. But the two areas that have caught us this year is, one, we don't catch the ball like we did last year, and that's surprising to me because there's really good defenders on that club. And the second thing, we haven't hit as consistently as we'd like to, and so you get those two things ironed out with the pitching that we have, and now all of a sudden you're going to find yourself in the hunt again. So it's not going to take as long as I think a lot of people think. I think a lot of people are hitting that doom and gloom button and thinking, oh, it's, in this division it's going to take a while. No, it's not, because you play in a pitcher's ballpark. Yeah. And offensively, you've got to accept the mindset that I got to hit line drives. I can't try to hit homers. I got to hit line drives in this ballpark. And Petco's that way. Bank One, or whatever they call it in Arizona, is that way. The new park in San Francisco is that way. You got these big ballparks where power is not that easy, so you got to hit line drives. You got to make things happen. And I think at some point offensive guys are gonna buy into that, and when they do, they're gonna have success.
And oh, by the way, you're also the head of the San Diego State baseball program as well. How are our boys in red and black looking?
Same thing. It's that same struggle on the offensive end that I'm talking about with the Padres. We have it too.
Gotcha.
And in the college game now, we changed the bats last year, and all the moaning and groaning about how bad these bats were. Really, it's how the moaning and groaning should be how bad my mechanics are.
Gotcha.
Because now you really have to do things right to have success. And as a coach, I like that, because they got to work at it a little bit. You got to work harder at it than you did before. You're just not going to sit up here and take balls in the outer half and hook them in the left center field or right center field. That's not going to happen. So mechanically, you got to do things right. And we had a real young team last year. We took our lumps last year, and we're going to have our young team again this year. But I think we're going to be better because our young guys got to play a lot last year, and the experience that they've gained is going to make them better.
And finally, I've got to ask you this question to wrap this interview up. Will anybody ever beat El Cajon Ford?
Nobody. Nobody. And I'm so glad that I get to do it on broadcast now. I was just make the Dick Enberg, and he would think, as Tony Gwynn said, so I'm glad he's at least giving me a shot to do that. So yeah, nobody would.
Literally one of the best guys you're ever going to meet. Obviously one of the best baseball players in the history of the great game. Tony, I appreciate your time.
No problem.
Good time. Good catching up with
Thanks
you.
for coming by.
No problem.
Show how junky my office is.
He's Tony Gwynn. I'm Costa. That's another edition of Behind the Balls right here on rock1053.com.